Wake up, buyer payer people. It's a beautiful day. Go grab yourself another cup of joe and say hello to Jim and Michelle Rhodes on the Buy Here Pay Here morning show. Take it away, you two.
Good morning, everybody. We're really happy to be here. It's a happy Friday. Friday's always a day everyone looks forward to. Jim is still in Oklahoma and joining us from his hometown of Guyman. And I am back at our podcast studio in Clearwater, Florida. And it is a really soupy day outside. So I think we're going to have some thunder and lightning storms, which is kind of fun out in Florida to have that. But we're glad y'all could make it today. And Jim's got a couple things that he wanted to be able to start with this morning, a little bit of follow up on our Wednesday broadcast.
Sure. And so good morning, everyone. As Michelle said, I'm in Oklahoma with family this week and be back in Florida. And hopefully we'll have better internet over there. We thought we had our internet issues solved. I heard a little bit of a lag there in Michelle's conversation, but I apologize for the internet delay and the snags there.
So can I tell him a story about it yesterday?
Sure, go ahead.
So Jim, he sends me a message and he's like, I think it might be your end. And so he asked me to do a speed test. And, I've got like almost 300 upload and like 38 download. And he had 4 upload and 1 download. It's like, yeah, it's slow. It's slow, honey.
The numbers cut out, yeah. So at least on my side, and so the numbers were much lower here at family place in Oklahoma. So it's the first time I've seen a wireless router that has a hand crank on the side of it, so that you can so, obviously, I'm kidding and exaggerating, but it's we are much faster internet speed today, so hopefully it won't lag quite as much. And again, we beg your patience on that part. It should catch up. You may drop out
Monday
for a bit,
we'll be back
and then you
to
may
normal.
speed up and talk real fast.
Yeah, Monday we'll be back to normal completely. Jim will be back.
Sure. So let's circle back to Wednesday. For those folks that missed the conversation on Wednesday, we would urge you to go back and find that, because that is probably a pretty good indication of kind of the theme of what I think you can expect to find out of our show. And I see we got folks in there saying hello. By all means, throw your thumbs up in there, and let's do again what we've asked in the past. Just tell us what state you're from. We can't always see your name there, but let us know what state you're listening from, and we'll certainly try to say hello. And if you have questions, you can throw them in the chat bar there, and we'll try to address them as they come. But about Wednesday, we talked about transparency, and it's really about talking about transparency of the vendors and, lenders, funding providers that we work with. And it's just an example, I think, of where I see this show going and what we have the opportunity to do with it. And, on that kind of same track, it was asked or mentioned a while back about us being admins in the group. And I just want to make sure everybody in the group knows the only reason Michelle and I are admins at the group is because that's the only way we can broadcast live with lag. So Tommy, the group administrator, granted us that access. Right. Yeah. So we could be live in that way. So that's why. Just understand that's why that's happening. And forgive me, I've got a little bit of a scratchy throat this morning. But the other thing to understand, we had some conversations this week. Like I had some conversations on behalf of dealer clients, with some funding providers, and I'm pressing them pretty hard. And frankly, some of that is coming, and I've always asked for these things over the years on behalf of clients, but part of that is just kind of having the opportunity to reach more people and rally dealers, around some of these ideas, because they're, we're basically stepping into a role of advocacy on behalf of you as dealers. And I'm going to need you dealers out there to be my friend, because I'm afraid I'm not going to have very many friends in the dealer world. So, I'm going to need you to, look out for me on that, because I really am. I'm starting to press, and this is kind of where I see us going as a morning show, is the opportunity to we're going to certainly talk about industry news. We got a few things like that to talk about this morning, but I just want everybody to understand we're really kind of trying to use this platform to be a voice for you as dealers. And so it's really important that you speak up and let us know what's important to you, and let us know how we can kind of add to your voice and try to help, frankly, get the attention of some folks who need to, watch what's happening in the buy here, pay here world, and really, recognize the things that we're requesting and have a chance to have an impact.
Yeah. I just
Michelle,
wanted
did you have
to do
anything
a
to add to
shout
that?
out real quick we've got a lot of people that have popped in and mentioned where they're from: North Carolina, Texas. Got a couple from Texas, Tennessee, Indiana, Kentucky, Arizona, all that. So welcome, everybody. I can't see your names from my end, but just wanted to welcome you all.
Glad to have Indiana, Kentucky. I don't think we've seen them in there before, but by all means, throw your questions in there. We just had a couple things to talk about. Again, this idea with being a platform here and being able to use this platform to, get feedback from dealers. Let's learn what's important to you. And obviously Michelle and I have been out there on the beat, so to speak. We've been in trenches and been working with dealers out there for a long time. And so we kind of have a pretty good feel, but we get surprised once in a while in terms of, what is really kind of the hot button issue or the challenge for dealers out there living it. So, and Tommy, we invited Tommy to join us this morning, but he's out there being a dealer, so he couldn't
buying cars.
Yeah. He's out there buying. Couldn't be with us this morning, but just know that Tommy will step in, as a co-host and group administrator from time to time, and of course we're also for any of that are listening over on YouTube. We want to make sure that that we have a good group in Facebook called BHPH Success, and so if you've not been introduced to that group, we're broadcasting live in there. There's also the BHPH boardroom, which is excellent, run by Amanda Sanchez and Hugo. And so we would, invite you to jump in that one as well. We're not currently broadcasting into that group, but I find that many of the dealers that are in that group are also over here. So
in the success group.
Right. Yeah. So I think a couple things I wanted to touch on based on what we've seen this week is one, the conversation just this morning, Brett Buick threw out there about, the changes in the economy. It looks like we are starting to see, a lot of people are, predicting a market crash, in the coming months and years. And, I don't disagree. I'm sure we do have a correction of sorts coming and, as a result of the impact of COVID for sure. But I've never been one to try to speculate on that. And my perspective on our industry really has been, at least for those of us that are smaller, let's say 15 million under, and that's to a lot of us that sound like a pretty big operation. But when you look at buy here, pay here as a whole, there are some very large operators, north of $20 million portfolios. So for those of us that are smaller than that and kind of more small town and medium-sized town, typical portfolios of, 5 to 10 million or whatever. And we see a lot of dealers at $2 million portfolios. So that's out there as well. But I would just say that I don't see much change for dealers in that segment. If I break up buy here, pay here customers into letter grades, as we've heard over the years, if you think of A, B, C, and D customers, and D customers being the ones that we primarily finance and buy here, pay here, then I frankly just don't see a lot of change for those of us that are primarily financing a D paper customer. Now, our economy might change a little bit locally, employment might change a little bit locally, but as far as our opportunity for business, I really expect that would stay the same. I see more change in the C paper segment and the lenders that primarily serve that segment, because those of us that have been in this industry for decades, we've seen these swings. With 2008 crash, there have been major upticks and downturns in the larger economy and in the stock market, and we just don't typically see that have much of an impact on those of us that are out there in deep paper. So Michelle, you've heard me talk about that. What are your thoughts
Yeah.
there?
Well, it's interesting to me that it sounds like that article was more like the housing market and all of that, and it's the same thing that people have been talking about. Hey, we've got some of the bigger auto people that are starting to try to market to the subprime customer. And when that all started, like I said, I'm new to buy here, pay here, so I haven't been around for decades to watch the trends. One of the things that Jim mentioned when people started saying that was a concern, he said, "Oh my gosh, it's happened before and it'll happen again." They try to get into the bigger lenders, try to get into subprime, and then once subprime people do what they typically do, they don't know what to do with them. And so then they get back out of subprime. And it kind of just makes me wonder that a lot of this is mortgage related, it seems, and that maybe it's the same thing that kind of happened before, even though it's different circumstances for a crash or whatever. But that it's like, well, we need to be a little bit more careful about who we lend to. We're already in that segment. So if we're doing our job and we're getting all the I's dotted and the T's crossed, and we already know who our customer is, that it shouldn't impact us as much. But it just seems that, you get some of the bigger names that keep dipping their toes in subprime, and then they get bit and they don't know how to handle them defaulting or, having problems with paying.
Right. So you're right. That thing that Brett shared was really more along the lines of the mortgages, but obviously that can impact the larger economy and can potentially affect us. So let me just throw the question out there for a group, any of you that are currently listening. What are your expectations about the next 5 years? Do you expect your business will get better or could get worse? Or do you think it'll stay the same? Just give us that. And as we get practiced up here, we'll be able to throw that in as an actual poll. But for now, just maybe throw it in the comments and let us know. What do you think the next 5 years looks like for your business and buy here, pay here, your local area? Better, worse, or the same? And then, as Michelle touched on, it's been my observation across my career that, as the capital markets kind of expand and contract, stock market is always out there looking for returns on investment for their, investment groups. And they will sometimes stick their toe into subprime, and sometimes it goes well. But the first indication of defaults and, any kind of a, downturn, that money tends to withdraw and invest elsewhere. And that's where I say, I think the C paper customer and the dealers who are pretty dependent on the C paper, segment, that's the dealer. I think these ones that are 20 million plus, and some of them are quite large, and they are successful in funding because they have capital to do the high ACV cars. They're more affected because they're also out there doing the low interest lines of credit and sourcing some pretty affordable capital, and their business model leans pretty heavily on that. So when that goes away or starts to adjust, then obviously it makes them have to adjust their business model. Where, I've always said about my customers or my clients out there that are doing buy here, pay here, they're pretty much already doing all the business they can afford to do. So you can say, okay, well, C paper customers get hurt and now their credit takes a hit and now they're a D paper customer. So I'm suddenly going to have more customers in my local market. Well, that very well may be true, but will you have access to the capital to be able to fund that? If you had a chance to increase your sales by 50% or 100%, next month, would you be able to do that? With most of my dealers, the answer is no. And even if they could, would they? So it's like, that's where we have to, I think it's really important to be consistent in our business model. Obviously, most of us are, accessing all the funds we can. Many of us are paying a high price for funds, which, by the way, I want to take folks through some math on payment streaming. And we don't necessarily have to do it today, Michelle, but, one of the things, the conversations we've been having on behalf of some of our clients is looking at funding options for dealers that are new. If you're within the first 2 years of business, and certainly within the first year of business, our capital sources are fairly limited. Like we just don't have a ton of options out there. Our local banks don't like buy here, pay here. And while we do have a number of lenders, and as I've said, many of those I'm friendly with, I've known them for, many of them for decades. What we see is that they just don't have the appetite for early stage dealers. They want to see them, create some history, create some cash flow, prove out their underwriting model and that sort of thing. And so what we see is that the money that is available to early stage dealers is quite expensive. And I'm not sure Friday morning is the right time to go through some math, but there's some things to understand about the cost of money for us in early stage. And I'm really, trying to do what I can from my position to, to help create solutions for dealers that are, in that place, because we need to be able to bridge our way to the more affordable money and more, lines of credit, revolving lines are more conducive to us when we're looking to grow and have the ability to be nimble. And so that's why it's important to bridge our way to there, anytime we can. So Michelle, thoughts?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And a lot of our clients too don't like the idea of having all of their uh, their portfolio tied up in revolving lines of credits and things like that. And so it's just, this is kind of a squirrel, is that we really appreciate when we see funding options where it allows people during the contraction to be able to get the money that they need, and then during the expansion of our business, the opportunity to pay it back and then have everything on their own books again.
Yeah, certainly. I think we're just seeing that, I think that as we're certainly seeing some big players out there in the space. Without naming names, I'm going to, avoid in this platform naming names. Occasionally it may
Slip.
be necessary, but we'll, in this case, there are some players out there that are introducing some more affordable capital, and, we need to, obviously get familiar with their programs and make sure, because they're, that's not the only factor I feel like for dealers in the ones that we work with. Cause we do a lot of work over my career. I've done a lot of work with startups. We do launch packages and we help dealers get in that are brand new. And so, how we do the business modeling, like how we forecast their growth and help them project how much capital they're going to need, kind of how's the portfolio going to perform, and when can I expect to get cash positive. Those are all things that we're used to doing with our clients. So having access to the right money, knowing performance on that money, and knowing, exactly how the entire portfolio could be expected to perform. Those are all things, if we're trying to help a dealer anticipate, navigate kind of a high, or what's at least perceived as a high risk business, then it's just really important for us to have those numbers. So this is the area where I said, I had some conversations this week where I was pressing some of the folks that we're working with, because we just are starting to, press harder to get numbers. We need our funding sources to be transparent in terms of what's the performance. If you expect that you're going to service the portfolio because you say our dealer client is, high risk, well, then now, don't we have some risk because, as a dealer, don't we have some risk because we're relying on you now to service the paper, and we need to be able to forecast what that looks like. So that's what Wednesday's conversation was mostly about, for those who missed it. And so this is where we're just kind of starting to step out there, and we're probably going to step on a few toes. It's unfortunate. I wish the information were more free flowing, but that's kind of where we feel like we can be advocates for dealers.
Yeah, and especially with what you opened with that article that Brett shared, there's a lot of dealers out there that we've run across that are. Jim tells a story about a dealer that when he was new in consulting, and he was having a walk and chat with them, and Jim was asking him, so let's figure out how we can make you grow, and the dealer turns to Jim and he says, Jim, it was like 25 cars a month, and I don't want to sell 26, because, sometimes we get in our lane and it's comfortable and we know it's predictable. We know what we can sell. But with what's happening in the economy right now, those of you that that want to be able to service a growing customer base, it's time to start kind of thinking about that, and be thinking about being prepared for more customers. And it's like one of the things that Jim and I are always trying to help people get to the point where they're working on their business and not in their business. And this is a on your business kind of thing that's coming up. And so, we just challenge all the dealers out there that, if you have the opportunity of growth, what does that look like for you? How are you planning on doing that?
Right. So I'm checking the comments. Most of you who chimed in said that they see the business getting better. Business will improve. One says watching local subprime companies, they don't collect and build relationships with customers the way we do. Very important. And then on Michelle's point about the dealer who wasn't looking to grow, we've worked with dealers, and Tommy would be the first to tell you. I think he told you on our podcast episode that he's one to say, growth is not always where it's at. Like, many of us think that's what we want to do, and we want to have multiple rooftops and grow. And I think Tommy's at least one, and we know others that would say, in retrospect, they wish they hadn't grown so fast, and, wish they'd kind of stabilized and enjoyed the positive cash flow instead of, reinvesting growth. We all have our own business choices. Like, as entrepreneurs and business owners, we have our own strategies. Is one of the things that Michelle and I talk a lot about with new clients is what are we looking to build here? What are we trying to create?
Yeah. What do you want? What do you see for your future? And so, like we've said, we've seen some that have pulled back and want to do something smaller, but there's a lot of newer dealers or younger dealers that haven't been in it for 2 to 3 decades that are like, all right, I'm in growth mode. There's awful lot that I want to be able to accomplish and create a really strong and growing buy here, pay here business. And so it just kind of depends on what it is that you want to look like, what kind of business model you want, what it is that you want for your future. So it's a good opportunity right now.
For sure. And then going back to the comment about, these subprime finance companies, they don't build a relationship with the customer the way we do. That's absolutely been my experience as well. They're obviously collecting from a distance. They're using, phones and whatever other methods to collect. And that's certainly the wave, right? We certainly want to take advantage of technology and use digital solutions for collecting, make it easier for customers to pay. That's all important and helpful. But we just, I have yet to talk to a funding source. If it's a funding source that does their own collections, like sometimes that's part of the program. They'll provide the funding to the dealer, but they insist that they collect, right? And I've talked to many of them over the years. A lot of them are still out there, and they virtually all say, we collect better than the dealers do. They say, why should a dealer be doing their own collections? Because we collect better than the dealers do. And I'll say, okay, cool. Show me.
Yeah.
Because I've got our numbers. Show me.
Yeah.
Show me that you collect better than the dealers. Because again, I'm over here trying to write a business plan and project how the capital is going to flow, and they won't show me. And it frustrates me. I ask, and then I ask it a different way, and I ask it a very specific way. And now I've gotten to where I'm asking for very specific KPIs by email, and I'm not getting it. And so this is where I'm saying I'm trying to be an advocate on behalf of dealers, and so we need to continue to press on that, and that's about pressing for transparency. And the other thing I said, I think on Wednesday, is that virtually all of them would say we collect better than dealers, and they shouldn't be collecting because that's kind of a negative thing. We should let them be dealers and go sell. And I think, well, that's valid. I mean, I get that. There's some merit to that, but how do you manage the relationship with the customer? How do you stay, how do I not lose the relationship with the customer? And, that's something we have to factor in.
Well, and one thing I just want to point out to our listeners is that we're not saying at all that you shouldn't have a third party collect for you. We just want to be able to see, if it is better, if it really truly is better than the dealer collecting, then what we do is we're always trying to direct people to the best practices. And so if it is truly better, then you're going to see us advocating more for that. But we just can't say that it is better until we've compared it in solid ways to dealers that we work with every day that do their own collecting.
Yeah, and maybe another way to say this, and we last Wednesday we had some actual funding sources or representatives from some of the funding sources on the conversation, and I can just tell you that if one of you as dealers invited Michelle and I out to come and do an assessment of your operation, and you've got an established operation as a sales department, inventory department, collections, underwriting, then I've said I've gone into these multi-million-dollar companies, and I'll say it early on in the conversation. Let's understand right up front that I'm on the side of underwriting and collections. Anytime there's a kind of a conflict in the operation and we've got some kink to work out, I'm going to always err on the side of the underwriting department and collection department. Why? Because the sales department's got a 1.5 year or 1.5 hour relationship with a customer. The collection department's got a 3+ year, probably more like 4 and 4.5 years now, relationship with the customer. So we've always got to err on that side. And I know that, we all know as dealers, that's where our real profitability is how well the portfolio performs. So my point in that is I can say, in these conversations with the lenders, I'm friendly with them. They reach out to me. They want, us to refer our dealer clients to them, and I'm happy to, introduce them if the program makes sense. But I'm just always trying to be clear. I represent the dealers. Like, I'm trying to make sure that the dealer has what they need. And so that's why I think this opportunity to have this morning show inside this Facebook group of dealers, and let's make sure people know when they hear my voice, there should never be any doubt. You can go back and hear my voice and read my articles for many years. That's always been my position. And so that's what we're here to talk about. And that's why we want to make sure and kind of rally dealers to, join us in the conversation. And we really feel like we have a chance to make a difference in this way. And, I've shared with Michelle and Tommy that I've always kind of seen myself, being able to step into this place of advocacy because of the nature of my career and having, been in dealerships all over the country and having owned my own dealership and finance company for 7 years. We feel like we understand the needs of the dealers, and we're constantly trying to monitor the pulse of that. And so that's why, again, this conversation on right now, we have it planned to be Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning. And I can just tell you, Michelle, I am not going to run out of stuff to talk about. We might run out of listeners. We might run out of bandwidth. We are not going to run out of stuff to talk about.
And I want to just let the listeners know, all of you people out there that dealers, that right now we're talking about transparency in lending, and we're going to continue with that conversation. But that's not going to be the main focus of the conversation. And we're going to continue trying to figure out how we can rally people together better, and so that we can try to be not just Jim and Michelle who refer dealer clients to them, but as a united dealer group. It's like, these are the things that we want. We want more transparency. And it's not just going to be, like we mentioned before when we started this whole conversation, just about lending. It'll be about a lot of different things, a lot of the different industry providers, and just taking some people to task for transparency about what does this look like and how does this work. So we're not gonna be beating this drum about lenders for forever, but it will be you'll hear a beat about it if it fits into the conversation that we're going to be talking about every.
Yeah, it might be a different part of the business, but the drum we're going to be beating is about, what's good for dealers. And so this is what this show can be about. So we're approaching 30 minutes. So it's probably a good time to start to wind the conversation down. we appreciate your patience. Michelle and I just said, we got to do this. We got to jump in. We're figuring out the whole streaming live stream thing as we go. And so we appreciate your patience, as we kind of work through this, but we just knew it's important for us to get out there. And so we hope you're appreciating what we're being able to share. And we look forward to we're starting to kind of figure out how to invite others to the conversation. And so we look forward to being able to do that and bring dealers into the conversation and perhaps others. But in the meantime, thanks for tuning in. We definitely appreciate you joining. And Michelle, you have any closing thoughts?
I just, in summary, guys, again, drawing it full circle around to the article that Brett posted this morning is be prepared. What is it you want? What do you want your business to look like in 3 years? And if we have an opportunity to be able to invite more customers into our portfolio, how are we prepared for that? And so start, asking yourself those questions. Try to have the mindset of working on your business instead of just in your business. And we are coming up to a time where we potentially could have a lot more opportunity to help folks in our communities.
Very good. Thanks for that. So again, thanks for joining us. We're going to wrap it up for today. So by all means, throw your comments in there. Remember, you can find us on YouTube, even the archived episodes, and archived episodes should be available in Facebook as well. And we would invite you to subscribe to the YouTube channel. You should be able to find that easily enough by just doing a search for Jim Rhodes.
Like and subscribe.
Subscribe over there. That'll be the best way to find all of the stuff that we're sharing. There's a ton of our podcasts are over there as well. There's a ton of great stuff over there. So by all means, join us there. In the meantime, have a great Friday, great weekend. Hope you collect car payments.
Yeah.